Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. Because of a technical difficulty, my face is not visible, but I think that is okay. We are here to listen to Sridhar ji. Sridhar ji, namaskar and welcome to episode number 75. This is the 15th of January 2021.
Namaskar ji, and thank you. Thanks to you, and thanks to all viewers and supporters and subscribers to the PGurus program. This is our 75th. We have positioned it slightly differently. This is Global Insights rather than the traditional format that Sree Iyer ji uses, which is the fireside chats and extensive reviews. So very happy and thank you all for being part of this journey.
So let's jump right in. Biden has just announced what he calls as the American Rescue Plan, and it has a lot of features. First off, he's trying to make up for the shortfall of $1,400 that was promised, and now that's one of the top items in his list. This is still preliminary information. I'm just going to put up the pie chart that shows what is the way that 1.9 trillion is going to be dispersed. Sir, your initial thoughts on this?
My initial thoughts is very cautious criticism, if I have to use that language. Cautious criticism here is there are two specific line items that bothers me. One is the amount of capital that is allocated to the local and state administration. It's about $350 billion. This was the subject of contention in Stimulus 2, and this has snuck in. $350 billion. Now, mind you, this $350 billion is not decked against PPP program that supports small business or corporate. If one listened to people in the Georgia, the two runoffs, there were a lot of small businesses complaining that they really need help in terms of the continuation of the PPP from augmenting and helping. So most of the capital seems to be directed at this $1,400 incremental delta to the $600 that seems to be consistent with everybody's aspiration. Also, the extension of the unemployment insurance of $400, plus the moratorium increase for rental and mortgage support that was expiring, $25 billion in the previous stimulus allocated, extending beyond January 31st to September 30th. I think those things clearly are supportive of what is needed in the economy. Okay, forget what it costs to the overall debt and the interest costs on the expense side of the government balance sheet, but they are. But these two items kind of stick out, especially the $350 billion on the local side. And I also noticed there is $170 billion further towards this support of COVID-19 vaccination, et cetera, et cetera. One has to remember there was a $63 billion, $83 billion allocated already in Stimulus 2, and then there was a $13 billion allocated in Stimulus 1. Plus, there was also $120 billion allocated, 100 billion for the hospitals and 20 billion for other kind of services. So again, this particular number, kind of bothers me. Then the other number that is the schools. The schools is also close to $170 billion. So I may have got the schools and the COVID numbers a little bit mixed up. COVID is 120, whereas COVID is 50, and the 170 is for the schools. So 170 plus 83 plus 13, that's about $263 billion has been allocated towards the kind of the schools. So I think some of these numbers are headline numbers that kind of stand out. What is more also problematic here is they are now mandating $15 per hour as the minimum wage, which has been the Democratic plank. Whether the businesses can afford this $15 an hour at this stage when everybody wants a job. So $15 per hour, is laudable, is agreeable and acceptable, and so on. The question is, an employment is an agreement between an employee, an employer, and generally these small businesses are sympathetic. So you have a double whammy for small businesses, which is the engine of the economy. One is you don't have a capital allocation to support the PPP, and the second is the unit cost of labor that is being mandated. So those are my initial observations, and this is not passed by Senate, so there would be a lot of discussion, in the initial days. So the focus is going to be fascinating, which is namely, remember that there is an impeachment bill that is coming from House to the Senate. And so whether they're going to be discussing and debating around the impeachment bill, or whether they're going to be discussing and debating around this stimulus package, which is much needed, is on the political side of the budget.
Sir, let's take a look at the other plan that Joe Biden has. Now, this 1.9 trillion constitutes what he calls as first of two major plans. There is a second one that they're working on that we touched upon. It's about creating jobs, reforming infrastructure, combating climate change, and advancing racial equity. I think you should say equality. So these are all somehow nebulous to me. I can't see the clarity. I can understand creating jobs and reforming infrastructure. Infrastructure is up for reform, but combating climate change, is this that carbon credits that has been much talked about, and people have alleged that there is a big scam going on?
I can give you the number that has been floated in the budget side. It's a $450 billion capital allocation for Paris Accord, okay, which is about a green energy. It is about clean water, and it's about clean air. If you listen to the Squad or the Alexandria Cortez, or if you listen to Ilman Omar, you will be saying that they are kind of saying rah rah rah. We need to have clean air, clean water, clean energy, all kind of future initiatives, and a huge number is decked against it. It begins to wonder as to what exactly is the economic outcome is number one. Number two is what exactly is the social and civilizational outcome as you look ahead when you allocate this kind of capital. And often they have never had a measurement as what exactly it has resulted by way of outcome. In other words, has it postponed the melting of the ice in the Arctic by 25 years, by 100 years, by 200 years, the specific program? Have we improved the portability of the water by so much by spending this kind of dollars? There's never ever been, this is like, United Nations and WHO type of programs. They draw in capital, but when you ask about the impact, they say the impact is left to the countries. We only kind of set policies, do field trials and tests. So you have this big allocation for this agenda of Paris Accord and this green initiative. There's also another one which is I don't know where they are going to fit this in. This is the energy initiative, which is environmental safety, making our buildings energy efficient so this consumption of power is dramatically reduced. Where that fits in, I don't know. But we'll begin to look at it. As far as the Jobs Act is concerned, this is typical in terms of saying, we get the jobs going. Look, we have unemployment rate right now around 6.7 to 7%. Having said that, suddenly the number of unemployed went up from less than 800,000, 770 or 780 to about 905 or 930,000, the numbers that was released yesterday. Okay, so roughly, let's say 900,000 plus. So you have that number keeping up. So they say that you got to have immediate kind of jobs induced in the sector through this Jobs Act infrastructure development program. If you look at the Fed numbers, Fed is predicting an unemployment rate of 5%, and that 5% numbers was calculated based on the money going into the PPP program and small businesses employing more people rather than government-induced types of programs. So philosophically, we need to look at as to what exactly the composition of some of these numbers are. Mind you, these are all very typical, very traditional democratic, left policies. Okay, so therefore, numbers will reveal the story.
Numbers will reveal the story indeed. Next, we want to take a look at the impact this is going to have on the overall fiscal deficit. Now, you already had 900 pass, 900 billion, and then on top of that, there was going to be an additional 30 billion or so per month or something like that. That adds up to this 1.9. I mean, big picture, mota mota, as they call in Hindi, we are looking at least a $4 trillion addition to the United States deficit. And this is not even looking at the phase two of this. So, what kind of a plan do you think Janet Yellen will have to combat this?
Janet Yellen will be saying, as you pump more money, I'm very happy to receive it and put it back into the system. That's what she would be saying. I'll try and keep I'll speak with Jerome and keep the interest rates low. And so you give me the authorization so I can put the money into the system. Well, Senate has to authorize for the Treasury to inject capital, so she's going to inject capital. So it's 2.1 first, 900 billion second stimulus, 1.9 the third stimulus. That takes us to about close to $5 trillion. But there's one more coming. That's by estimate. It's about 2.5 trillion for those four programs. So that's about $7.5 trillion is going to be added to the total debt of the balance sheet. And Fed is continuing the if you remember, Fed is continuing the $20 billion asset purchase program. So you have a double whammy. You have a US debt and you have a Fed balance sheet that is also kind of bulging as we speak. So to answer, she's going to play she's a great economist, and she comes from, and she did a fabulous job as the Fed, continuing from Ben Bernanke. So between Jerome and Janet, they're just going to make sure that this economic and financial stability of United States is managed, and also communicate to the markets, while the fiscal policy seems to be, having lots of kind of challenges. Remember that when Steve Mnuchin funded the budget, his between balancing the 10-year and the 30-year kind of U.S. debt, he was able to reduce it to about 1.2% of the GDP as the cost. That was the number budgeted into the balance sheet of the U.S. Now, with this addition of this new, whether it is going to blow to about, beyond 3% or 3.5% in the middle of a COVID crisis, is number to be quantified once the two programs are finalized. One is the stimulus, and the second is the next tranche of money that needs to come in. So Janet, to answer your question, Janet and Jerome are going to manage the fiscal and financial stability to make sure that the markets are not going to, dump.
Let's take a look at the January 6th riots. We have a few updates. We kind of put together the thing as a tale of four cities. We'll start with what has been showing up on Washington Post. Washington Post claims that Trump allied foreign activists and dissidents responsible for the US Capitol seize. What are your thoughts on this? Because we're going to compare what WAPO says, what Gateway Pundit says, which is a right wing, WAPO is a known left wing. Then we will look at what CNN says, and we also will look at what social media says about essentially the same event. Initial thoughts on WAPO, sir.
Initial thoughts on WAPO is, you would expect, because there was a lot of noise in the system that, Antifa and BLM and other left-wing movement were active on the scene that day. And it is whether it is, people who are sympathetic to Democratic Party got wind of this. There's also reports floating around that people knew about this ahead of time. So if that was the case, if they knew about the ahead of time, why there was not enough security? There's also a report which basically says that the guys who were moving around, had access to maps and navigational help inside in a complex building. You can't have just the rioters land into a huge infrastructure-based, Capitol Hill house, and then navigate around and go land directly in Nancy Pelosi's office to kind of pick up. So there's a report. So that is being combated by Washington Post. They're using their own intelligence and other kinds of journalistic sources to come up with a theory that this was all orchestrated by Trump allies from overseas. And that's backed to some extent by the left media in terms of their articulation. Lack of clarity around everything. For example, Ashley, the death of Ashley is unclear, even after who is responsible for who shot is unclear. Now you have Jake Sullivan coming up and saying, the BLM, he was there. Then you have a guy having a Confederate flag, he has been caught in Delaware with father and son have been caught. So you have a whole bunch of both sides of people who have been caught, and they're quite deliberately suppressing I won't use the word suppressing, they're very delicately managing this investigation so we don't have further kind of political and journalistic flare-ups. And certainly the media companies, the media platforms have not been very helpful. There's a report that's been released, internal video of Jack Dorsey briefing his people, which is to say our target is one specific handle, and that specific handle is going to be blocked. That's just not the. This is not the end. There's a beginning, and there's a whole swath of activities to follow, and are asking the organization to prepare. So when you hear these kinds of things, that's why I say Tale of Four Cities. We say Tale of Four Cities because the reason is it is Tale of Four Cities. You have a left media, you have a right media, you have investigation agencies, and then you have the tech platforms. So all playing kind of different roles in this game. And I think, in a sense, in a more sensible approach has been proposed on the political side, which is namely Lindsey Graham and Ron Johnson, to say how you cannot conduct an independent inquiry. This has to be conducted by Senate. You have already made a decision that is instigated insurrection by Trump. So therefore, we should conduct an independent, objective inquiry so we can get to the truth. So to me, I think that is the way. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican, whether you are a Democrat, whether you are carrying this or carrying that. It's a sacrosanct. The House is a sacrosanct. The Capitol Hill is a sacrosanct area. The reason why there was no security, it's quite lax, is basically because people respected that. But now that respect or trust has been breached. So it's important to get behind it and get to the truth so we all can, breathe freely that the true culprits have been arrested and this does not occur again. By the way, nowhere you have a presidential inauguration in the United States where you have army as well as a national guard of 20,000 people protecting and safeguarding the inauguration happens. That's just quite astonishing.
Yes, indeed. It was a people event where people get to see their president and have heavy guard. So I hope that that event passes off peacefully. We know that Donald Trump is not planning on attending it. There is some interesting information there. We will share that in the next few days. Let's take a look at all the different things that has happened leading up to this event. FBI says it's tracking extensive online chatter about armed protests. Dozens of individuals who were on terror watch lists were in DC on January 6th. So if they knew all these things and they shared it, what were the local law and order agencies doing?
I think that is when you have the Right of Information Act, ROIA was filed, okay, Right of Information Act, and that was declined. And the Capitol Hill police apparently have taken a position which is to state that, look, we are well covered and we don't expect any major untoward event. This contradicts with the FBI's observation that there was expected to be a problem, okay, based on the chatter that you are pointing out. So all these people, either one day prior, apparently the chat 1 day or 2 days or 3 days prior, there was this chatter. But we can't kind of specify any bit of information because the information is not authentic and information is not corroborated by the agencies. But, for example, the armed forces is investigating whether there are people with extremist views within the army because some of the vets were present. The FBI and DOJ, we talked about it yesterday, is investigating specific cases, but also whether they were people who were in the chatter groups and who were on the tracking list. Why? How come they landed on that specific day? And so there is all this activity that is going on, which begs the question: where was the failure? Is the failure on the part of the security, which is supposed to manage this off the Capitol Hill? Is it at the Washington, D.C. Capitol? Is it the D.C. police? Is it the internal security agencies? There's clear ambiguity in terms of where to pin this responsibility and why there was this significant failure.
Let's take a look at globe. China regime saw unprecedented efforts to crush human rights in 2020. As reports a U.S. commission, and I think the U.S. commission is the USCIRF. This must be in their latest update. We know this Uyghur thing has been going on for a long time, and we have done extensive coverage in PGurus by bringing subject matter experts. The China regime doesn't seem to stop, isn't it?
It doesn't. It has very able allies. Here's my 3 observations. First observation, the Hong Kong and Uyghur, right? Has anybody in the world done anything which will mitigate and deter their actions? The only person who has done that is President Trump with regard to the human rights violations in Hong Kong and all the activities that are going on. He has been going after various individuals. Hong Kong has been delisted. Hong Kong exchange has been, many listed companies are delisted. The last 2 institutions who complied with was Goldman Sachs and Blackstone, BlackRock, which we covered. Then you have no precipitous action from any institution. If you take the Uyghur, Uyghur is going on and on and on and on. And this is one of the issues that many Indian community have, which is to say, you're talking about human rights violations. India is human rights. India is a democratic society. You say India is a human rights violations. But then what about China? You are trading in billions and billions of dollars, right? And basically, what is it that you have done in terms of the violation? There is another report on the Chinese side, which is the Turks are trading Uyghurs who are in Turkey for vaccines. This is a report from one of the most leading publications, which is when you get behind it. So I don't think that there is an easy answer, and it's not going to be very helpful I don't know what Biden is going to do, what President-elect Biden is going to do. But historically, Obama-Biden administration have not been very strong as far as dealing with these issues on China is concerned.
A few episodes ago, we mentioned about how the President of the United States acts like a CEO of a corporation and he works till his last day. And we are seeing evidence of that. The United States has barred entry to Chinese Navy officials and business executives who oversaw South China Sea militarization. And I'm going to add one more thing and then you can touch upon both these things. US has now added CNOOC, which is a Chinese oil conglomerate. It has also added Xiaomi and a bunch of other companies to its blacklist, saying that these things are also aiding China in its aggressive behavior towards its trading partners. So at least, Trump is acting even now. I mean, even though there is a lot of other stuff that he's getting distracted, he's still continuing to push forward with sanctions on China.
Well, I think that there are two important implications here. One is Mr. Pompeo made travel to all the strategic locations, and he has been traveling over the past 2 to 3 weeks. There's obviously a lot of intelligence activity that one is observing in these strategic spots, particularly, Taiwan and South China Sea. So it's very, very poignant that he has made South China Sea as an important area to focus on, and he has targeted both companies which are helping, the personnel, especially the PLA personnel, plus also the business people who are investing in the disputed waters, fishing for trouble. So he has targeted them, and for the fear that there is a gap in the leadership transition, and there should not be further incursions for all the good work that they have done in the past 4 years in terms of whether you call it as the Quad region or the Quad partnership or the Indo-Pacific partnership as one would call it. The targeting of Xiaomi as well as CNOOC CNOOC is a prestigious brand. Is the one of the largest energy kind of conglomerates, very similar to from India, which is Reliance, or very similar to Enron in the United States. So CNOOC is a powerful arm. So the fact that he's kind of put a tag on that is very telling. Again, Xiaomi is one of the leading mobile phones, so he's going after them in terms of both as a brand as well as the 5G, which is a cause for concern for the world. So you can see him, as you rightly pointed out, sir, that he's like a CEO. These are the guys who are troublemakers, and let me go and tackle them. So it's both on a security side, but it is also a punishment for all the stuff that is going on in violation of human rights, both in that specific zone as well as in the Hong Kong area.
Before we wrap up today's segment, let's take a quick look at markets. Sridharji, big tech has lost close to $51.2 billion in combined market value since the Trump ban. I think that took place about 7 days ago or 6 days ago. 7 days ago.
No, January 7th. January 6th.
January,
was the
so it's,
January 6th. So it's now almost, 11, 12 days? Sorry, 10 days. 9 days. 9 days.
9.
9
So,
days.
so Trump, Twitter has reacted to that. They are seeing their stock value, fall quite significantly. And I've seen Facebook also, and the FANG companies are taking it on the chin right now. Maybe less for some and more for the others. When do you think the stock market is going to make Jack talk differently from what he's talking right now?
He's already talking differently.
I led you up to that, didn't I?
He's already talking differently. So, I think you are closer to Silicon Valley. Maybe, he has heard your vibes, which is to say we got to change. He's basically saying he's talking to, there's always, two sides of the coin. When it's probably not very relevant. The Ugandans, suspended their internet service, plus also banned activities from Facebook and Twitter and so on in that specific. So he came out and expressed, freedom, right of freedom and freedom of expression and blah, blah, blah. He went on those kinds of the language that you typically hear from the left, and there's no doubt he's left. And all one needs to do is look at his contributions in terms of his preferences. But anyway, the point is that he's already beginning to make statements, which is to say that platforms should maintain freedom and should not take such types of actions. On the contrary, he has not condoned the actions that he has perpetuated on himself by virtue of this. Look, banning one specific handle is fine, but they have targeted and chosen. If you get a chance, please go and read the extensive report that has been published based on the video, or you can listen to the video himself, where he has stated that this is not, this handle is not just a standalone handle. We have a whole swag of programs behind, so we're going to take down much more and more to come. That's in his briefing to the staff. So market reaction, markets have reacted. You can see the flight of social media customers to various platforms, and that I think you elaborated quite extensively yesterday, where all customers are migrating to. So I think that I just don't I don't see any immediate change in the trackability or the reversibility of this trend of shift, because the trust has been broken. So, and a political bias has preceded. Banning one handle is different from banning all people associated with within the ecosystem. So I think that's what I would say. There's only two observations if I have 20 seconds. One is the interest rates will continue to remain flat for foreseeable future. We already forecast because of the present. They don't see any inflation in the market, so you will see that going. That's the first part. The second part that I want to say is that this is the time to invest in markets. Looking at the dips, there will be gyrations as these budget numbers come out, but you're going to see some good movement. This is the prediction by the central bankers, not the market pundits. Central bankers are predicting that there will be a gyration in the market, but one will see the economic growth. We're not talking about stock market, economic growth back on the agenda. Remember, 4.2% is the predicted economic GDP growth for 2021 by Fed, and 5% is the predicted growth by Goldman Sachs.
We are coming off of a trough, so there is going to be significant growth. Also, I found it amusing that a few months ago, I came across a news item which said that some of the countries' central banks, I'm not talking about US, I don't know about US, were actually buying Facebook stock because it was doing so well. So there is, the reason is really going out the window. And it's really surprising that they would consider taking a stake in a company stock. Essentially, Facebook is what? It's just, right now it is amplification of one side and attenuation of the other side. So anyway, That's my thought. If you would like to add something to it, otherwise I'd like to bring this program to a close, sir.
No, sir. I think. Thank you so much. I think we have covered a lot.
Viewers, that brings us to the end of this week. Have a great weekend. We'll be back again bright and early next Monday. And happy Sankranti to you. Today is the 15th. They also call it Kanupongal. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But there are functions, there are pujas that get performed even the day after the Sankranti. Many places have kite festivals. Be careful out there. And we will again see you next Monday. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.